That Pete Seeger had an FBI file. Pete Seeger. So Pete Seeger, he's a folk singer. He sung, "This land is your land, this land is my land. From something something to New York Islands, Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was named for you and me." So the guy who sang that had an FBI file. He had an FBI file that was actually quite insane. He was thoroughly excited about being drafted into the military. He was working on being an aviation something, mechanic or engineer or something. So he was very excited. He wanted to destroy Hitler. He was anti-fascist. I mean, that's what tripped J. Edgar Hoover's henchman off. He was anti-fascist. So clearly, he's a communist, and since he's anti-fascist, he might become a communist, and if he's a communist, he might overthrow the government. Fuck. There it is. Right then and there. J. Edgar Hoover's FBI came out of the Palmer raids in the 1920s. There was a Bolshevik revolution, and then there's a big Red Scare. So J. Edgar Hoover was, under Woodrow Wilson in some sort of internship, or he was under Palmer. I think it was Jim Palmer in the Palmer raids. So while the rest of the world was up in rebellion, revoluting against their governments here in America, they were cracking down. They were cracking down on dissidents and political opponents. And FBI, the head of the FBI, came out of that. He came out of the Palmer raids and basically did the same thing for another world war. This time it's the Second World War. So it's actually kind of fucked up. It's weird. It's almost like the American government is telling on themselves. We're going to fight Hitler and the Nazis and fascism. Him and Mussolini. I mean, they're the ones that came up with this shit. Right-wing fascism, authoritarianism. The government says what goes, and that's what I understand to be fascist. Most people make it seem like it's some, hard fucking term, but that's Hitler, Mussolini. Those are what fascism comes from. Specifically, I think it's anybody that's willing to use violence in order to defend your idea, and if you got to use violence in order to defend your idea, then your idea ain't worth shit. So, fascism, it's weird that's what tripped them up. They said that they was interviewing Guthrie or his father, and a sticker on one of his guitars said, "All fascists are bound to lose," or "All fascists are going to die." And I wonder, did he sing that? All you fascists bound to lose. Woody Guthrie. So that's not even Pete Seeger. So Woody Guthrie, he was Pete Seeger's buddy. Pete Seeger. So here's what actually got him on the list. Pete Seeger, there's actually been a lot of people that's been on the FBI list. Helen Keller. Helen Keller was on the FBI list. But there was MLK, Helen Keller, and somebody else pointed out a different one. Helen Keller, MLK. We all probably got a fucking file on those, right? Tesla. Nikola Tesla, the inventor. But they fucking burned his shit down. They burnt all his shit down. Helen Keller, she had a FBI filed. She was a socialist. She was in favor of birth control. So she's overturning, she's for a new world order. She wants birth control. Women are allowed to control, who's allowed to fuck them without any consequences. No way. No way. The FBI was against that, or whoever was the FBI back then. I don't know if the FBI didn't get formed. Maybe it was the 20s, I don't know. She also co-founded the ACLU, and she hated Woodrow Wilson. So socialist for birth control, founded the ACLU, I fucking hate Woodrow Wilson. Why is the hatred for Woodrow Wilson not ubiquitous? Why the fuck would anybody love that piece of shit? He watched Birth of a Nation, said it was like writing history with lightning. Woodrow Wilson, he's the one that, got us into this fucking World War I. Why did we fight World War I? World War I's what caused Hitler, because World War I, they smashed reparations, crushed Hitler, or Germany, and then they was going to rise again. So World War I we didn't gain anything. The League of Nations was fucking failed. The U.S. Congress wouldn't go with his League of Nations. And we invaded Mexico, invaded Haiti, like imperialist. Basically, Woodrow Wilson was testing out his imperialism. How far can I go with this imperialism? So, fuck Woodrow Wilson. No, wait, this is about Pete Seeger. But Helen Keller, man, she sounds sexier and sexier. Like, I guess I had more pity than I had respect. But now, a socialist. Bernie Sanders is making socialism respectable. So exciting. He changed the entire fucking game just by his presence and his strong support. This is exactly what Glenn Beck was fucking freaking out about. Oh my God. If the people realize that socialism is wonderful, if people realize socialism can actually help their miserable, poor, working class lives, what are we going to do? So, Helen Keller, she had a FBI file. J. Edgar Hoover probably did not. We should all request our FBI file with a Freedom of Information Act. So everybody get on that if you want to see if you're on the FBI's watch list. Peter Van der Toring said, I wish I had an FBI file. Then I could tell all my friends that I am wanted. I'm wanted. At least somebody wants me. And then I made a joke about, hey, here's all to the FBI, NSA. I'm not for sure if anybody's watching or reading my stuff, so thank you all for being a friend. And then someone said, bomb. Now I'm on the watch list. Ha ha ha. So that was a fun little conversation. MLK was on the FBI list. He was militantly nonviolent, so I don't know. J. Edgar Hoover fucking pins the article to fuck him up. He wrote the article. He wrote the article telling MLK to go kill himself. So he was sitting there saying, man, I got the information. I got the goods on you. I know exactly what you're all about. He didn't have MLK by the balls. MLK was outside of J. Edgar Hoover's, abuse of power, his purveyor, his sphere of influence. Usually he would find some dirt, go there, hey, you want this dirt to come out on you? If you want this dirt, then you better listen. If you don't want the dirt going out, you better listen to what I tell you, motherfucker. And I'm sure he probably was able to fuck a lot of presidents and a lot of powerful people over. I mean, that's a very influential. What am I trying to say? I don't know. It's a way to turn the fucking screw on somebody. But frankly, I don't know. I don't like it when people try to do that type of shit to me. So it's like, fucking do it, Do it. You got something on me? Leak it out to the press. Go ahead. Tell everybody what the fuck happened. Let's see how that works out. We'll see how this works out. I don't want any man to have any power and control over me. So if you think you got something, fucking throw it out there. We'll find out. We shall find out. We shall find out. If I ever became a street vigilante, I'd want to change my name to Pubert McDougal, so the cops will never take me seriously as a suspect. It might be Pubert McDougal. That's Pete the Boney. Okay, so let's get to Pete Seeger's FBI file. So eventually, World War II is happening. Pete Seeger's been drafted. He was excited. He's going to be this aviation mechanic, and this is 1942. And it says, Dear Sirs, he writes a letter, to the American Legion. And the American Legion said that they were going to be in favor not only of banning Japanese immigration, but the American Legion wanted to get rid of all Japanese people. They wanted to get rid of the immigrants, the citizens. They wanted every person of Japanese descent gone, out of here. And that's Hitler-esque. That's so Hitler-esque. So read his fucking letter, and then this is what, the fucking J. Edgar Hoovers, they're fascist. They're fascist. If you think Pete Seeger, it seemed like Pete Seeger was actually very much all-American. He wasn't communistic. He was in favor of American nationalism, wanted to defend American interest, and he's, a fucking military man, wants to go kill Hitler, so he's in the army. So, okay, here's the letter. Dear Sirs, I felt shocked, outraged, disgusted to read that the California American Legion voted to 1. Deport all Japanese after the war, citizen or not, and 2. Bar all Japanese descendants from citizenship. Everybody, all the Japanese, nobody can become a citizen, everybody must go. So we, who may have to give our lives in this great struggle, we're fighting precisely to free the world of such Hitlerism, such narrow jingoism. If you deport Japanese, why not Germans, Italians, Romanians, Hungarians, Bulgarians? If you bar from the citizenship descendants of Japanese, why not descendants of English? After all, we once fought with them too. America is great and strong as she is because we have so far been a haven to all oppressed. I felt sick at heart to read of this matter. Yours truly, Private Pete Seeger. I am writing also to the LA Times. So that's it. That was it. That was the letter. That was the writing that had sent them into a fucking frenzy. They didn't know what to do with this young private who says, I don't want America to become like Hitler. I don't want America to become like Hitler. And that is actually kind of fucking weird. Why are we picking on the Japanese? Why not the Germans? I mean, like, Woodrow Wilson had an anti-German policy. They was fucking hanging Germans in the 1910s and 20s. They were, you know, there was attacks on Germans. That was Woodrow Wilson's thing. No German Americans, no hyphenated Americans. You're either American or you're not. So why are they just picking on the Japanese? Why wouldn't they actually have an anti-German policy? Oh, that's right, because there's way too many fucking German immigrants in here. I think German immigrant is actually, I would say, it compares to English immigrants. And that's, you know, we attacked England at one time, so why not? Why not them? Why not go after them? So it's fucking crazy, right? If I had a hammer, where have all the flowers gone? Turn, turn, turn. Kisses sweeter than wine. Good night, Irene. These were all Pete Seeger songs. So July 1942, he was excited. He was trained to be an aviation mechanic at Kessler Field in Mississippi. While in the Army, he kept up in all the news. He was 23 years old in the fall of 1942, wrote a letter of protest to the California chapter of the American Legion because he had, you know, read that they were going. So anyways, that's it. He wrote that fucking letter. Then they started inquiring and probing into him. They found out that he has a Japanese-American wife. His father had run away from the militarism of the Japanese. He didn't like the Japanese. He was a refugee. He was an immigrant, but she was a citizen. So he was married, you know, to a Japanese-American wife. And that actually reminds me of August Landmesser. August Landmesser was in that one picture. He's like cross-armed. Everybody else is saluting Heil Hitler, and he's the one guy not, you know, saluting to Hitler. And they, you know, highlighted his image, and they said, if everybody's doing one thing, be that guy. Be August Landmesser. August Landmesser is a fucking badass, and he was against Hitler's anti-Jewish program and because he had a Jewish wife. So, you know, men might be racist and nationalistic when it comes to men, but when it comes to women, our dick is a humanitarian. We see no difference, and that transcends, you know, a lot of the dumb hatred and bullshit. It caused Pete Seeger to make a stand, which eventually fucks him. He doesn't get into the Army because of that. They start probing him. They found out he's got a Japanese-American wife. His father said he's not a radical. He doesn't want, you know, to overthrow the government. He is a liberal, though. He's a liberal, so he believes in love, compassion, not being like Hitler, right? Not being like Nazi Germany. He was anti-Nazi Germany, and that's the reason why J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI went after him, because J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI is fascist. They're fucking fascist. They're just like Nazi Germany. They're just with propaganda, with sabotage, with intimidation. That's been their historical role. There's been some good things. I've seen corruption in public offices, you know, so they've been doing some decent things, but I from what I've read with the black people, how they've treated the Black Panthers and the MLK, you're going to write to MLK telling him to kill himself. And why? You think that would work? It's like, I never thought about, maybe you know, like, fuck you. That's, they really thought he had a very thin character because of it. So, let's see. They went on, they probed him, then he wrote some letters. They was reading all of his letters. He was, he was married, or he had a Japanese-American fiancée. And he told them, they interviewed him, he was part of the Almanac Singers, which had Woody Guthrie in it, and then he was engaged to a Japanese-American. There was a guy who had interviewed Seeger. He was puzzled he had not been deployed as an aviation mechanic because he had completed his training. He played the 5-string banjo well. So, let's see, the officer wrote in a memo that he believed Seeger had been truthful in all of his answers and he made no attempts to withhold anything. The officer added, from all indications, subject has no idea that anything he has done or any associations he might have had in the past or might have at any present time would be cause to hold him on this field or keep him under surveillance at any time. And he was like, I was frank, spontaneously volunteering all I thought they would want. I thought I had satisfied them. And he's thinking that he hoped it was because of Toshi, but he's afraid that it's because of his work as an almanac singer. So because he was part of this folk singing group with people with liberal and different ideas, and because he was about to marry a Japanese American, they held him suspect. And the only reason that he even came to the attention of the FBI was because he says, hey, let's not become like Hitler. Let's not scapegoat all Japanese people. I mean, the history of racism in this country is fucking sick, right? Fuck the natives, fuck the blacks, fuck the Irish, fuck the Germans, fuck the Chinaman, fuck the... Go down the gauntlet. And fuck the Muslims right now, right? Fuck the Mexicans, fuck anybody and everybody, right? That's not them. If you can make a distinction, yeah, fuck them too. Somebody said something about him being bohemianly dressed. Who the fuck would even talk like that? Nobody would say, oh, he's a bohemian. Bohemian Rhapsody, Bohemian is Czech, but it's about, it's the hippies before the hippies. So, I don't know. It's not a real term. I think it'd be more like, you're a damn hippie, you dirty-ass hippie. But Bohemian, hell, maybe Bohemian will bring back, I don't know, it kind of sounds barbaric, right? If you're a Bohemian, you're like backwards, but... I like it. I like it. So, let's see, there's more things to gloss over here. Pete fucking Seeger had an FBI file. Who didn't have an FBI file, right? That's what somebody asked. He'd always been, this is Guthrie's description of Seeger. He'd been greatly interested in American folklore, always been interested in people, what they were doing. Seeger had a great deal of energy, was brilliant. But he was hard to understand. Guthrie attributed this to the fact that Seeger always wanted to see things done in a more efficient and better way than they were being done. Well, that sounds fascist, right? In addition, Seeger loved good organization and was always active in trying to make group endeavors work more smoothly. Guthrie would not name any of the groups, but said he referred to many kinds of outings or meetings in which people assembled at large gatherings. Guthrie probably was trying to do something good, but by holding back, it made him seem like there was something bigger, right? When he was asked about Seeger's political views, Woody Guthrie said that he was progressive in his outlook and had liberal views, maintaining that men had the right to organize and bargain collectively. In addition, Seeger was very much in favor of labor unions, and most of the almanac's bookings were by such unions. According to Guthrie, Seeger's present politics are national unity. We're all Americans, national unity. Guthrie emphasized that Seeger was not an overthrower, but he was out to win the war. What Seeger wants personally is to do Hitler the most damage possible. Guthrie said he had just received a letter stating that Seeger was extremely anxious to be sent on active service, and that he could not understand why he was being held inactive in an unassigned group. So that's what he told a guy named Ryan, an FBI agent named Ryan, though he was suspicious. Ryan was suspicious of Guthrie, thought he was being cagey about Seeger's political beliefs. In his report, he noted that in Guthrie's apartment, he had spotted a large guitar that bore the inscription, "This machine kills fascists." This machine kills fascists, watch out. Ryan added that he believed this bears out the belief that the almanac players were active singing communist songs and spreading propaganda. He reported that he thought Guthrie had been truthful as far as he went, but he knew a great deal more about Seeger's politics and activities than he admitted. Throughout 1943, the results of the military's probe were compiled in reports On Seeger, one memo reported that Seeger's supervisors at Harvard University considered that the subject had radical ideas, and one of the supervisors thought that the subject had a leaning towards communism. It was noted that a reliable source had said one of Seeger's acquaintances was a self-confessed communist, ardent in his love for the communistic teachings of Russia, and one acquaintance, maybe the same one, said Seeger was in sympathy with the communist cause. The author of the report will conclude that Seeger will be further influenced along questionable lines by his new wife, the former Toshi Ota, who is half Japanese. Correspondence between the two indicated that both were deeply interested in political trends, particularly anti-fascist. Anti-fascist. Because he was against fucking fascism. And so, that kind of tells me that America is a fascist country, at least authoritarian-wise, right-wing authoritarian. And this is by a Democrat, president. But during the war, we were totalitarian, very much. We had the Japanese-American internment camps. I don't remember any German-American internment camps. We let the German-Americans just run around here. And we did fight the English, so should we deport all the English back, right? Any descendants of England have to go back because we're fighting a war against England? The document was sent to J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI, that said that he was potentially subversive. The report had concluded that Seeger was an idealist whose devotion to radical ideologies is such as to make his loyalty to the United States under all circumstances questionable. So that's what the FBI was looking for. I think they had the select committee of un-American activities. So it was all about nationalism. It was all about America, loving America. Thinking about nationalism, I always think about this because I grew up in Kentucky and I grew up around a bunch of Confederates, and the logical, the sort of intellectual defense was states' rights. And so I grew up very much a Kentucky man, very much a Kentuckian. Kentucky was my country. I just happened to be in the United States, but I was a Kentuckian through and through. My loyalty was to Kentucky, to the United States too. But I believed I think it was Kentucky. Kentucky in America, humanitarian. I don't have family. I had a ranking at one time. I oscillate now. I kind of like them all. I like, Kentucky's a cool state, but so is Virginia, so is Hawaii, right? With Colorado, Washington, Oregon, D.C., Alaska are my favorite states right now. And humanitarian. I think that should be what America sort of strives to be. That we're all humans, right? We're all humans. I like that I'm in this country. I like that I was born here. I think because we had set the American continent up before, the states, drawing out the boundaries, because of the way we had sort of took over this whole place and set up the states in a methodical manner. I think that we're very strong. We're a strong union. We're a strong sort of nation of laws, and with democracy and the elections, there's institutions here. So I see the United States as is. I think it's going to be immortal. I think we're going to be here forever. Whereas Europe, even in Yugoslavia, they were fighting over boundaries. So we don't have those types of boundary wars. And even though we're relatively new, our oceans protect us, so we're sort of doing our own thing, even though the empire and multinational corporations stick their fucking tentacles in, newer markets is what they say, but if we're robbing the rest of the world and bombing people for dictatorships, I'm sure that's going to piss a lot of people off. That's going to create more terrorists, and so that doesn't help me. It seems crazy. It seems like Pete Seeger is a communist. It doesn't seem like he's a radical. It doesn't seem like he's anything. He's in the fucking military as an aviation mechanic. He wants to do his job. He was doing his, wants to be all that he can be. And just because he didn't like the policy of deporting all Japanese, he didn't want to be Hitler. He didn't want to be Hitler. So, I don't know. Fuck J. Edgar Hoover. Fuck the FBI, at least for the 1940s. Pete Seeger's an all-American man. He's talented. He's singing and dancing. Maybe J. Edgar Hoover, instead of suppressing all those fucking weird urges and wanting to be an oppressor, maybe he should have just learned to suck his fucking gay buddy's dick, right? That was his man. And, he's gay. So, where am I going with this? Another military intelligence report concluded that Seeger's communistic sympathies and his numerous communist and otherwise undesirable friends rendered him unfit for a position of trust or reliability. A third report said Seeger is intensely loyal at this time. He is eager to join the battle actively against fascism and is applying himself to improve his military and technical knowledge to be of greatest service. But it added that if the Communist Party line shifted against the war, Seeger could be susceptible to potential subversion. This report also focused on his love for Toshi Oda. While this relationship appears on a high plane, this officer believes it to be unorthodox and one which might lead to divided loyalty in the event this country's treatment of the Japanese were not in accord with the views of himself or the women he expects to marry. It went on to point out that as an entertainer, his songs have been colored subtly towards idealistic classlessness. And this memo concluded, despite Seeger's intelligence and desire to apply himself to the destruction of the enemy, this officer believes that enemy to be fascism and not necessarily any enemy of the United States. That is, Seeger is more loyal to an abstraction than to his country. So that abstraction is anti-fascism. Well, if he's anti-fascist against Hitler and the Nazis, he might be anti-fascist against the FBI too. And that's probably not too far of a thing, but my God, I mean, look what the FBI was doing because of the Red Scare, because of the communism and the crackdown, because of their infiltration. And this is actually, a justification for why we have a war on terror. You can't go to war against an idea. Well, Tony Blair said, yeah, you can. They went to war over communism. They went to war over an idea. And so look how complete this idea is. It's saying that if you have principles, if you have any principles, which I have strong principles, I'm not just anti-fascism, which I believe to be tyranny, but I'm against superstition and ignorance and lying and violence and rape and murder. I have principles. I got a set of core values, core beliefs, and I don't hear people talking this language. I don't hear anybody saying shit like this. I got it from a lot of people, but I got it, I don't know, I think it was Aquinas or Kant, I don't know, but they were sitting there saying how you build dignity is when you apply those principles. So when you apply those principles, then you got dignity. So to be more loyal to an abstraction than his country is kind of fucking weird. He remained under surveillance as a potentially subversive person. Doesn't everybody have the potential to be a subversive person at any point in any time, right? You have the capability of doing good or evil at any moment, at any time. You're driving to work, you're driving down the road, and you're like, man, I just want to drive into this building. And I've seen people get pissed off at a hotel teller, and then he drove his truck right through the hotel lobby. Was he potentially subversive, or did he just snap? And isn't that how, subversive acts and rebellion, isn't that how it always starts out, right? Just with an idea, just with a flicker, a flip of a light switch. So anyways, Pete Seeger, FBI file, motherjones.com. Check it out. Peace.